وسهلا بكل الذين ينضموا للاستماع إلى راديو بلدي أول راديو عربي أمريكي ويعنى بقضايا العرب في المهجر. برامجنا في راديو بلدي كل يوم جمعة من 8 وحتى 9 صباحا في بث حي ومباشر عبر WNZK راديو 690 AM. صباح الخير بلدي، صباح الخير لكل مستمعينا.
Welcome to Radio Baladi, the first Arab, Middle Eastern, and American simulcast radio show. Radio Baladi is broadcast every Friday morning on WNZK 690 AM from 8 until 9 Eastern Time on Good Morning, Michigan. Our call-in number 248-557-3300. And now, stay tuned for the best radio talk show on Arab and American issues.
Good morning and thank you for being with us. This is Khalil Hachem, editor of wnzk. wnzk is a digital business magazine in the Arab American communities. We address issues such as real estate, loan and lending information, support to small businesses, and much more. Visit us at wnzk.com. Again, thank you for being with us. Today is November 18th. It is a little bit cold outside, but we don't complain. We end up not shoveling snow, so we're happy. It's so good to have you with us. We wish you the best of health, wealth, and happiness. Are you ready for Thanksgiving? There's more to this holiday than time off and food. It's about giving forgiveness. It's about giving forgiveness and being thankful. Are you prepared to do your part? You know, I love this holiday, and every year I wanted to do this segment in which we talk about the true essence of this holiday, which is being thankful. And with us this morning is a person who would address this issue in a beautiful way. And with us is Wissam Bazzi. He's a business and personal consultant and executive performance coach and speaker. Mr. Bazzi, good morning, and thank you for being with us.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm grateful to be here.
Absolutely. I haven't seen you for a while, and it's great to see you this morning. Thanksgiving. This is about, I know it's about turkey. I know it's about family time, but it's also the most important thing is about giving thanks, sharing, and then just being good. What does it mean to you, and what does being thankful mean?
Well, again, thank you for having me, Khalil. It's always a pleasure to see you and be on here. I think you do an amazing job.
Thank you.
Just connecting the community. So I really appreciate that. For us, I think when we think of gratitude or thankfulness, I think the first thing that needs to come to mind is a feeling of peace, tranquility, and honor, respect, dignity. All these things come into a certain context. So to have these feelings is completely different than just to think about these feelings, to actually feel something and to feel grateful. And I'll just start off with a small little story. When someone, how does someone feel grateful? How do these emotions get injected into us as human beings? They've actually done studies on this, and they found people who have gone through traumatic, situations like survival, or situations that they've had to really, really endure something, a challenge that's heavy in life. You'd find out that they come out on the other end extremely strong and capable and more forthcoming. Not everybody, obviously, but it's the person who kind of takes himself or takes herself to the next level is through that challenge. And it's stories like when somebody survives through being on the open water in the ocean. Imagine how much gratitude they feel towards just having a cup of water. In one study, they showed that the person would actually give the right hand literally for just a cup of water because they didn't have it. So I think to feel those emotions is really incredible without the trial, without being taken into such a harsh place in life. And to keep that consistent, how do you do that? That's not an easy thing. And we can go into that if you'd like a little bit more.
Yeah. Let's first, in our community, there's this mixed feeling about this holiday, but at the same time, I love this holiday. We celebrated at my house and then we celebrate it in our own way. I explain to the children, I break it down, forgiveness, giving, being thankful, all of that. I'm sure, growing up in this community, how some people feel about it. I think it's important that we explain it, that it's okay to do, to celebrate Thanksgiving. What do you think?
I think you can be thankful at any time. It's your choice.
Exactly.
It doesn't need a period or time. I think it's the most powerful thing is to be a thankful person, because if you are thankful, you are emotionally rich. You don't have to be necessarily socially rich or financially rich, but you can be emotionally rich. And if you have a heart that's an ocean of emotion, that's of giving, and giving thanks and giving gratitude and giving to other people, it's a thankful person is a generous person. So I think it doesn't need a time period. It doesn't need a state. It needs a lot of mental and emotional work on all of us to connect. And I'll give you something, Khalil, in terms of what his studies have indicated. People who are actually receiving gratitude or actually giving gratitude. And studies indicate that when somebody, like a study was when people, a letter of gratitude was being read and the person was next, that was the subject, was next to the person, and they were just hearing it, just kind of overhearing the other person. So, and they were connected to fMRI, circuitry in terms of that, and they were reading the brain circuitry. And there's something called the medial cingulate cortex, and at that level, that's what sets the kind of the context for you as a person. So when that study was being set off, the neural circuitry of actually gratitude was much more intense in the person that was hearing gratitude. So it's a lot more powerful for you to actually feel the gratitude. Then just when you do that, you project it to other people. I think that's the most powerful thing on the face of the earth. So if you can walk around in your heart carrying gratitude, and then infect others with that, I think that's the most powerful thing in the world. And that doesn't need a time, space, condition. It just takes a strong mind and a strong will to be able to do that and to overcome challenges of your life, that you can help out other people with your own just emotional state and representation.
Absolutely. I must say that over the years, our community has gotten more into the giving mode. I see a lot of activities in the community, sharing turkeys, sharing other food, sharing other activities during this holiday. Jerry is on the line. We have a quick call. Good morning, Jerry.
Good morning, Mr. Khalil Hachem, and thank you for taking my call.
Absolutely. Very quickly, Jerry.
Mr. Khalil, I believe, if I heard it correct, Mr. Bazzi is your guest?
Yes.
Yeah. Good morning, Mr. Bazzi.
Good morning.
I want to wish you and Khalil and all the viewers a happy Thanksgiving Day. My question, Mr. Bazzi, some of our people from our Middle Eastern community, or even from the Far East, when it comes to Thanksgiving, they try, unfortunately, to isolate themselves from this American tradition holiday, which is concerned one of the biggest holiday in our country, in the USA. What do you say to the people who they isolate themselves? They don't want to celebrate Thanksgiving. An example, Mr. Bazzi, when I used to work, my
Jerry,
boss,
Jerry, let Mr. Bazzi answer the question. Thank you for your call.
Yeah. Thank
appreciate
you,
it.
And I appreciate it. And
Thank
happy
you.
Thanksgiving to all of you.
Thank you. I think we've addressed it a little bit, but if you'd like to elaborate on it for Jerry's benefit, we appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Jerry, for the question. I think it's excellent. It's an excellent point. I think he makes a very valid point, on that level. I think to live in a country that is amazing in terms of its giving towards its people, I think it's really something amazing. I think at the end of the day, if you are a grateful person, if you live in the United States, you live in any country around the world, I think being thankful doesn't have a gender, it doesn't have a sex, doesn't have It's a human trait at the core level of a person. And when we isolate ourselves from any kind of giving, I think it could be something that can be problematic, and you can choose to integrate. You don't have to necessarily assimilate to everything. It's by choice, but at the end of the day, I think it's one of the most beautiful things to be thankful and to share in this tradition. Is something really amazing in terms of the general human trait of just being, a human. So with Jerry's question, I think it's a valid point. I think we need to be thankful at the highest level. We need to show that representation as any human should. And I think there's something so beautiful about becoming a beacon of light in your own heart, like I was mentioned. But I think the most powerful thing that a human can possess is a heart of abundance, and to hold that. So no matter what I have, I'm always content, tranquil, and forthcoming towards others. And I think that is one of the most beautiful things that any character can display. So to Jerry's question, I think that is a very valid point, and I think we should integrate our thankfulness into anything.
Absolutely. Speaking of thankfulness, you do a lot for this community. You've been doing a lot for this community. So I want to take this time to say thank you for all you do. A lot of people, or some of our listeners, don't know what you do. Could you share with us what exactly you do and some of the projects that you're working on?
Well, I primarily work on business and personal consulting. I have my own consulting firm. And excuse me, I think there's a beautiful thing to doing what I do. I am so grateful for having for God to be able to have given me this opportunity to be with people every day and help them out in their challenges every day. My background's in neuropsychology. I've done some extensive research in those fields. And I'm grateful. I'm grateful to do what I do. Some of the things that I get to do every day is I get to make just decisions on sometimes extremely heavy challenges and situations that hopefully with the skill set that I have, I can help out the individual and get some results. And usually that's the case, but sometimes it's heavy. It's really heavy. But I love the community. I'm part of the community. This is my community. This is where I come from. I've been raised by this community, and we stand on the backs of giants who have set that forth. And you're doing a great job, Khalil. I respect everything that you do and how you try to project to the community. The community is one. Let's keep it that way. Let's keep our strength together and be thankful towards each other. And when you see someone committing something you necessarily don't like, just have the tolerance and the patience and to give another, a lens before you judge and set forth, and hold that peace in your heart before you actually come across with a harsh, judgment. So.
Absolutely. If somebody needs to reach out to you for coaching or for business consulting, how they can reach you?
There's a website, this wnzk.com. It's there. I'm currently, doing some traveling and stuff like that. So if it takes you a little bit for me to get back, forgive me. But that's how they can get.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time to be with us. This is a happy Thanksgiving to you. You do great things for the community. Thank you so much for being with us.
Habibi, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate it. Thank you. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back.
Our noses can sniff out all kinds of things. Good things and bad things. Your nose knows if those sniffles are just a cold, allergies, or COVID-19. So if you want to be sure, swab and test your nose for answers. It's good to know. Find testing information and resources at michigan.gov/COVID test. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Get ready for an amazing experience at Ishtar Restaurant on 15 Mile Road in Sterling Heights. Enjoy excellent hospitality from owners Ali Al-Baghdadi and Fatty Bonham, serving the best in Mediterranean food. Try Chef Ali Al-Baghdadi's famous shawarma, the best Iraqi grills and food, and the best Arabic and international dishes. Dine in our authentic atmosphere or take out. Call 586-698-2585 or check us out on Facebook. Ishtar Restaurant practices all CDC guidelines and is open every day 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Have an amazing experience today at Ishtar Restaurant, 3625 15 Mile Road, Sterling Heights. At Top Rehab Physical Therapy Clinic in Dearborn, we provide effective physical therapy sessions in order to limit pain and discomfort. Top Rehab provides physical therapy care for any diagnosis prescribed by a physician, and we regularly see and treat conditions such as stroke, TMJ, fibromyalgia, sciatica, joint pain, and more. We use a variety of pain management methods, including modalities, soft tissue mobilization, and therapeutic exercise. If you're in need of physical rehabilitation or physical therapy, get the highest quality health care at Top Rehab. Most insurance is accepted, and we're open Monday, Wednesday, and Friday 8 to 6, Tuesday and Thursday 8 to 5, and Saturday 10 till 2. Call for an appointment today at 313-846-0555. That's 313-846-0555. Choose Top Rehab Physical Therapy Clinic on Michigan Avenue in Dearborn. Life's too short to be in pain. Life is a nonprofit charity that's provided humanitarian aid and development to people and communities for over 25 years, regardless of race, color, religion, or cultural background. When disaster occurs here or around the world, Life for Relief and Development rushes in to provide food, medical aid, and shelter to those in need. Please help improve these efforts. Make your tax-deductible donation to Life now at lifeusa.org or call 248-424-7493.
Welcome back, and thank you for being with us. We appreciate your time. The number here is 248-557-3300. I want to thank Wissam for being on the show. This is, this was a great segment talking about this holiday, and we're going to be continuing the theme how to be safe during this time. We're dealing now. We're going to move from the psychological to the physical. And then during this time, we're dealing with the flu, we're dealing with COVID, we're dealing with RSV, and a variety of different ailments. So we will need to make sure to be safe. We caught up with Dr. Natasha Bagdasarian. She's the State Executive Medical Officer, and we talked to her about these issues. So is it as scary as they make it to be? Are we dealing with this triple threat?
Well, I would prefer to talk about it rather than a triple-demic. I'd rather talk about this as viral respiratory season, or cold and flu season is a little bit easier to say. And what that really means is we actually are not dealing with just those three viruses. We're dealing with a whole bunch of viruses that like to transmit at this time of year. They like the cold, dry weather. They like when people are getting together indoors, especially in indoor, poorly ventilated, crowded spaces. And that's when they like to transmit. And so every year we see increases in viruses like RSV, like influenza, but also so many other viruses. We've got para-influenza, coronaviruses, rhinoviruses, all of the viruses that cause the common cold and what people describe as the flu, even though they're not necessarily influenza. And so these all tend to transmit more in the wintertime. And what we're seeing right now is, number one, we, of course, have a new player in the game, and that's COVID-19, which has only been with us for the last 2.5 years. But we're also seeing some of those other viruses transmitting more than they have in years past. And there are a couple of reasons for that. Number one, for the last 2.5 years, people were wearing masks and distancing and staying home and doing all these things that prevented viruses from transmitting, and a lot of that has gone away. And we've also got very young children who have never before seen some of these viruses. So their immune systems are a little bit less mature, and they are the ones who are right now experiencing the worst outcomes with viruses like RSV.
Absolutely. So we know what COVID is, or we have an idea because we've been experiencing it. And then, the flu has been around for so long. What's RSV?
So RSV stands for respiratory syncytial virus. And it's a virus that has also been around for a very, very long time. It's just that we haven't heard about it so much. And usually in healthy adults, it causes mild cold-like symptoms. So not something that you would necessarily be tested for, not something that you would necessarily receive treatment for other than your over-the-counter Tylenol, Advil, drinking some hot tea at home. But again, we're hearing more about respiratory syncytial virus right now because some of those young kids who have never before experienced it, those are the ones who are more likely to have severe outcomes. And in younger children, that's when we see it causing issues like what we call bronchiolitis, which is inflammation of those very small airways, where they can end up wheezing with respiratory distress, needing to have some additional oxygen. And so what we've seen in the current surge, which is a little bit earlier than we see in typical seasons, what we are seeing is that it is predominantly affecting children under the age of 4.
How serious is that?
Well, again, if someone is healthy and has a good immune system, if they're a little bit older, if it's a child who is in their, 10 years old or in their teens, again, it may be very mild. It may be just a mild cold with a runny nose and a little bit of a cough. But in those youngest children, in those pediatric cases, that's when we can actually see that they need supplemental oxygen, that they need breathing treatments, sometimes steroids, sometimes admission to the ICU, and even death. So we really worry about the youngest who are affected with RSV. And then we, of course, always with these viruses, they can affect people who are older and who are immunocompromised and have other medical conditions as well. So for people who are relatively young and who are healthy, this may not be a big deal, but it's really those extremes of age that we worry about this causing severe problems.
Is there a vaccine for it?
There is not a commercial vaccine yet. There are vaccines that are undergoing trials that are being studied and that have shown extremely promising results. So hopefully there will be a vaccine soon.
Absolutely. What's the, we don't want to talk numbers, but what's the how is the COVID-19 behaving? Do we see increases? And what's the expectation for the fall?
Well, we are right now in a relative plateau. So things have been relatively stable, which is good news for the fall. In previous falls, we saw cases go up when schools open. We didn't really see that this year. But again, number one, we are looking at potential upticks in the wintertime. It's a virus that loves when people are indoors. And so as soon as the weather gets really cold and people completely move indoors, that's when we can expect to see an increase. But with COVID, one of the things that we are especially worried about are some of the variants of concern. And there are 2 variants of concern in particular that are on the rise. And one makes a medication called Evusheld less effective. And this is a medication that is used for people who are immunocompromised to protect them. It's long-acting antibodies. And there's another variant that is impacting our use of monoclonal antibodies that are used for treatment. And so with the rise of both of these variants, we're losing some of the therapeutic tools that we had in our arsenal against them.
Does the current booster that we have and we're taking, does it protect us from these 2 variances?
So the current boosters are really designed to protect us against not only that original strain of COVID, but also the variants that are circulating right now, the BA4 and BA5 variants. So the bivalent booster is an excellent tool, but I have to say that uptake of this tool hasn't been as good as I had hoped it would be. People are getting this bivalent booster, they're taking it, but not with the numbers that I had really hoped to see. We know that this cold and flu season, this viral respiratory season is putting a lot of demands on our hospital. And we've got to use these tools in order to protect our hospital capacity so that if someone has a heart attack or a stroke or is involved in a motor vehicle accident, they have access to the excellent care that they deserve.
Yeah. I know we talked about this so many times. I want to talk very briefly the benefit of taking the vaccine, not only for us, but also for the people around us.
Absolutely.
Just like a reminder. I know we've talked about it for 2-3 years.
Yeah, the vaccines are the best tool we have at protecting against severe illness and death. So taking the vaccine is not only protective for yourself, but again, we're using these tools to protect our healthcare capacity. We want to make sure that we have enough hospital beds to take care of those who are ill with other things, and that they're not only taking care of patients with COVID. So protecting healthcare capacity, and also we know that the vaccines don't completely stop transmission, but they can reduce the amount of virus that you're shedding. They can reduce the amount of infectious load or infectious risk you're putting at those around you. And there are some other tools as well that I do want to point out that we are forgetting about as we enter year 3 of this of living with COVID. And those tools are things like staying home when we're unwell, not sending our kids to school when they're feeling sick. If you are feeling unwell and you live with people in your home, wearing a mask is another way to protect them. Over-the-counter tests are a really good way to test for COVID early and again, protect those around you. And then we still do have therapeutics available for COVID-19 and even for influenza, oral medications that you can take. And so talking to your doctor ahead of time to see if you do get sick, are you a candidate for those medications? And that way you can plan ahead.
Absolutely. Now, are we expecting a worse flu season this year? And how is it's too early to tell, how is the vaccine release going to counter that? Do we know?
So the early signs are that the vaccine this year for flu is matched pretty well against the strains that are circulating. So that is good news. But when we look at our data, we're not seeing a whole lot of cases of flu yet. What we are seeing, though, is another piece of data, and that is our wastewater surveillance. So we do wastewater surveillance for a variety of things. And the wastewater surveillance told us that RSV was coming. And it's also telling us that influenza A is likely on the increase. And so, again, this is a really good time to get your flu shot. You can get it with the bivalent booster. You can do it on the same day. When I went in, I got COVID shot in one arm, flu shot in the other arm, and rested for a day, and then I felt fine. So this is a really good time to get vaccinated for yourself, for your loved ones, just to make sure that we have a safe and healthy cold and flu season.
Absolutely. What are we doing on the state level to really educate people and to provide help to everyone?
Well, number one, conversations like this. So I love coming on your show and talking to your audience and telling them about some of the resources we have available. We continue to put out information on our website. We send information to our clinicians around the state so that they know what the trends are, they know what viruses are on the upswing, and really making sure that we've got these channels for communication, I think, is the best thing we can do right now.
Absolutely. Now, with Thanksgiving coming up and more people going to be together, wouldn't it be, prudent for us to 2 weeks before take the vaccine?
That would be optimal. I think getting vaccinated as soon as you can for both COVID and flu is a good way to protect yourself, protect your family members. During Thanksgiving, there are some additional things you can do that will also keep your gatherings a little bit safer. So making sure you've got a well-ventilated space. You can also ask your guests or yourself to test with one of those over-the-counter tests. And just a reminder for your listeners who are in the state of Michigan, our Michigan health insurance plans are required by law to provide 8 free COVID tests per person per month. So it's a good time to also stock up on those tests and have them at home. And then when you have a gathering, if everyone's testing, you're really reducing your risk at that event. But of course, vaccinating ahead of time is really, really important as well.
Absolutely. And are you concerned that, for 2 or 3 years, we've done really well with masks, washing our hands and taking all these measures, and all of a sudden people are abandoning all of that? Are you concerned about that? I mean, it seems like this could contribute to the mess that we may end up in,
Absolutely. I think it's so tempting to say, I'm done with COVID, I'm moving on, I don't want to think about this again. But there's some really basic things that people were doing a good job of, and I don't want to lose that. And first is hand washing. So hand washing and carrying that little bottle of hand sanitizer, don't stop doing that. That's still a really good idea. And then the other part of this, of course, is keeping folks home when they are sick.
Yes.
One of the things during the pandemic was if you were in a grocery store and if you sneezed or coughed, everyone would move away from around you. No one wanted to be near someone who was coughing and sneezing. And so I think that was pressure. It was pressure to stay home if you're not feeling well.
Yeah.
And I don't want people to feel like it's okay now to go to work, to go to school if they're feeling sick. And it's important too, if you're feeling sick, even if your COVID test is negative, stay home. Stay home or wear a mask, because there are other viruses circulating right now.
Absolutely. This really has nothing to do with the flu, but it seems by us staying home for 2 years or 2.5 years, our bodies may have not gone exposed to other viruses that normally are, no big deal. Should we start doing it slowly so we can get exposed and build the immunity, or are there any concern for any certain viruses that, that may come out?
I think just really taking a common sense approach to this is the best thing to do right now. So yes, many of us have not seen those viruses for the last couple of years. And so our immune systems are playing catch up, but also some of us are not used to that feeling of being sick. And we had forgotten how terrible it is to have a cold, and all those things that you have to do when you're feeling unwell. So the first thing is, I think if you do get a mild cold and you're otherwise feeling well, it's okay to stay at home and take a COVID test. If that COVID test is negative, you can do the things that we're used to doing. Take some Tylenol, take some Advil, drink some hot tea with honey, do all those things that we've gotten out of practice doing. Exactly. And then, of course, those same other mitigation strategies, so washing your hands really well before you eat or after you leave a restroom. If you're going out in public, we know that there are all kinds of germs and viruses on door handles and things like that. So keeping that bottle of hand sanitizer with you is a really good idea as well. But lots of things that you can do to still go out in public, enjoy your life, but also try to stay safe and healthy while you're going about your day-to-day activities.
Absolutely. Is there anything I haven't asked you that people need to know?
I think you asked me pretty much all of the questions, but I'm wondering if I could just remind your listeners about the tools that we have available, because I really want to drive this message home. So the first bucket, I divide these into buckets. The first bucket is to make sure that you're up to date with vaccines and boosters. So we have a vaccine for influenza, we have a vaccine for COVID. Make sure you're up to date on those vaccines. The second bucket are these mitigation strategies. So staying home when you're sick, washing your hands really well, covering your coughs and sneezes if you are coughing and sneezing, or wearing a mask if you are around others and you're feeling unwell. Next is having a supply of over-the-counter COVID tests at home. If you're feeling unwell, it's always good to take one of those COVID tests. And if it's negative, you can always repeat it. You can repeat it a few times just to make sure it's not COVID. But again, if you test negative for COVID, it could be something else. So we still want you to stay home. Absolutely. And then lastly, those therapeutics, and talking to your doctor to see, if I get sick, am I a candidate for therapeutics for COVID or influenza? And really just want to remind your listeners to stay safe and healthy.
Thank you so much, Dr. Natasha Bagdasarian. She's the Chief Medical Executive with the state of Michigan. We thank you so much for taking the time to be with us. Stay tuned. We're going to take a short break.
When it comes to reproductive medicine, IVF Michigan Fertility Centers are the recognized leaders. With locations in Bloomfield Hills and 5 other cities in Michigan and Ohio, IVF has experts in all aspects of the field. As a founding member of IVF Michigan Fertility Centers, Dr. Nicholas Shama is one of the leading reproductive endocrinologists in Michigan and Ohio. Dr. Shama has performed over 10,000 IVF cases and has helped thousands of couples fulfill their dreams of parenthood. American board certified in both obstetrics and gynecology and reproductive endocrinology and infertility, Dr. Nicholas Shama is a very caring, compassionate, expert physician that understands not only the medical but also the emotional toil of infertility on his patients. When it's time, get personalized care from Dr. Nicholas Shama at IVF Michigan Fertility Centers in Michigan and Ohio. Call toll-free 855-952-9600, 855-952-9600. Kashat's Mediterranean Market in Shish Kebab offers a great array of your favorite Mediterranean meals. Meals range from lamb specialties, shawarma sandwiches, and seafood dinners. Plus, they offer big trays of your favorite food and so much more. Kashat's Mediterranean Market in Shish Kebab is located at 32839 Northwestern Highway in Farmington Hills and is open from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. So stop in or call Kashat's today at 248-538-9552. That number again, 248-538-9552. Kashat's Mediterranean Market in Shish Kebab will definitely leave you satisfied.
Are your hands feeling numb? Do you feel pain opening up a jar, turning a key? Are you noticing that your elbow and your shoulder are becoming stiff? Or were you recently injured in your arm? Hello, I'm Dr. Albanjit Katranji, and at the Katranji Hand Center, which just recently opened down the street from the Somerset Mall, we can provide you with the latest in hand, wrist, elbow, and shoulder care. Visit us at www.katranjihandcenter.com to learn the latest techniques that we have to offer you, and I look forward to taking care of you.
Visit us in Troy at 1565 West Big Beaver Road, Building F, or call Katranji Hand Center for an appointment at 248-869-4263. That's 248-869-4263.
Welcome back and thank you for being with us. This is Khalil Hachem with the Local Connections. As you all know, the holidays are here. Next week is Thanksgiving, and then this month rather, and then next we're gonna get to Christmas. And these are the times we're happy, we're with friends, we're with everybody. However, we are still vulnerable. We need to be vigilant. From history, crimes spike a little bit during the time of the holidays. And with us this morning is First Lieutenant Mike Shaw of the State Police, Public Information Officer of the Michigan State Police. Good morning, Lieutenant
Good morning,
Shaw.
sir.
Thank you so much for being with us. Is it true that more crimes take place during the holidays, or those crimes that are related to safety?
I think it is true to some respect, just because we kind of let our guard down. It's the happy season, and we're all going about our business, doing a lot of things. But there are things you can do every day to make it safer for you, and those things are even better during the holiday season to do, just to keep you safe. Make sure nobody's stealing your packages, or following you around, or doing anything that might be interpreted as a little bit scarier than other times.
Absolutely. What are these things? First, let's talk on the physical aspect. Then we can talk online. The physical aspect. What can we do to protect ourselves?
So first thing, you said it right off the gate, is to be vigilant. And we talk about that with everything. It used to be, we talked about different things, but when we started to talk about terrorism, international or domestic, or, be vigilant. If you see something, say something. But that kind of goes for all crime, right? If you're going out there and you see something suspicious, and that's the word that always gets people, it's like suspicious. Wow, what does suspicious mean? And what it means is, we've all had that feeling where the hair on the back of your neck kind of stands up, and you're looking at something, you're like, man, something's just not right. Trust your gut. Sure. If that's the case, you see somebody and you're coming out of the mall or one of your favorite stores, as you're walking out, you see somebody standing by your car, and they just give you that vibe that, that person is not, male or female, is not somebody that, I think is up to anything good around my car. Don't be afraid to walk back in the store and say, hey, can somebody walk me out? It's not, it's not that you're afraid, or, that you're asking for help or asking to inconvenience somebody. It's just that you see something that's not up to par. Yeah. So that's the first thing that I always say. And that's with everything, right? If you go to the movies, look to see where the fire exits are. Are there a lot of fires in the movie theaters? There's not. But if there is one, you sure want to know how to get out of there. So It's not a bad idea to kind of be vigilant as you go along. Second thing is inside your car. If you're going to do a lot of shopping, a lot of people try to knock out all that shopping all at once for, whatever holiday it may be, or just on a daily basis. Lock that stuff in your trunk. Don't leave it out there and make it where the bad person, walks by, or the criminal walks by and says, oh wow, there's some stuff in that car. I'm going to break a window, steal it, and be out of here.
It's like an invitation.
Absolutely, and it always sounds bad, but you want them to pass you up to go find somebody else, right?
Exactly.
And I hope it doesn't happen to anybody, but you want to make sure that, because criminals are opportunists. They are going to take the opportunity of whatever. The final thing is, if you are parking in those areas, is just make sure you're in a lighted area. You want to make your car like the hardest target for somebody to break into, because if it's lit up, or if you're paying attention and don't be on the phone, and you're walking with a purpose, like you're going to somewhere, a criminal more than likely is going to pass you up for an easier target.
Absolutely. And that goes without saying, lock up your car.
Absolutely. You'd be amazed how many times that we get called out to a house or somewhere and say, oh, somebody broke into my car, or I can't find my iPhone that I left on the dashboard, or my iPad that was in the back seat, but my keys were in the ignition and I didn't lock the door. Well, nobody deserves to get their stuff stolen, but again, you don't want to give an opportunist the opportunity, and you'd be surprised how many times we do roll up on stolen cars or things like that. Absolutely. Where that actually happens.
Yeah, I mean, even at homes, I'm always surprised when I go visit people and I look at their first floor windows. Most of them, they're closed, but they're not locked. And I say, somebody could get in easily. Why don't you lock them? Oh, it's safe. Well, don't take that chance.
We all want to think that we live in the safest community anywhere, right? Our neighborhood, we know all of our friends and stuff like that. And things have kind of changed. I'm a little bit older, so I remember, the old nosy neighbor that used to look outside and know what everything was happening in the neighborhood. They knew every car. They knew everything that was going on. Those days have kind of changed, that there's not that person anymore. But it's okay for you to be that person. Take a look, and if something strange happened in the neighborhood, don't be afraid to call the police and say, hey, I saw this person. Now, it's not every person that you don't recognize that's walking down the street, right? Again, it's that feeling that you get, if you see somebody just walking their dog down the street, they're probably not looking to break into houses. If you see somebody peeking in your neighbor's window, yeah, that might be somebody that you want to call. But yes, for sure, lock those windows. And when you're at home, we kind of don't think about it often. But as soon as you walk in the house, don't be afraid to close the front door and lock it. I mean, Absolutely. Even while you're home, just to make sure that nobody goes and just walks into your house, even while you're there. So you want to make sure that the bushes around your house are kind of neatly trimmed so people can see the window. You want to make sure that you have lights on, porch lights, things like that kind of make it, again, they pass your house by for an easier target.
Absolutely. Now, all what we're talking about is even especially more important for women when they're by themselves shopping. They need to be even more vigilant and ask for security if they feel like they need somebody to walk them to their car. Isn't that true?
That is very true. And again, the biggest thing is to look confident. I think we all do it. When we're all looking around and stuff like that, we know what people are doing. We kind of see what they're doing. Well, criminals are doing the same thing. They're addressing people as they walk through the crowd and stuff like that. So if you have somebody, man or woman, because I've seen on both sides, we're as guilty as ladies are, where you got your hands are full with bags. You got one hand on the cell phone that you're kind of looking or talking or texting to somebody, and you're not even looking out to see what's going around you. It would take nothing to run by you, grab the bags out of your hand and do that. So go out there and remain vigilant. And I'll say it numerous times through this interview. Don't be talking on the phone. Don't be doing any of that kind of stuff. And kind of aware of your surroundings. And if you want to walk you out, stores have loss prevention officers in every store that are more than willing to walk you out to your car. And you know what? If it turns out to be nothing, then it was nothing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, we live in a difficult time in America when it comes to mass shootings, and these could happen anywhere. I'm out there at the mall, I'm out there shopping, and I hear shootings. What should I do?
So there's an edict out there, run, hide, fight. there's other, methods that they talk about. There's Alice training. There's different companies that have different things. We kind of run with the run, hide, fight type of training because I think it's the easiest to remember. So if you're actually involved in an active shooter incident where you hear gunshots, the first thing you want to do is get out of there, run. I mean, if your friend won't run with you or they, run, you got to get out of there. The second one, if you have no way to go, and this is, again, talking about knowing where your exits are and things like that, find a good place to hide. If you can find under the desk, mute out your cell phone, find a place tucked in. A lot of stores have gates over them that when an active shooter situation happens, the stores are automatically going to close those gates down. So if you can get into one of those stores before they do that, that's another option there as well. And then the last one, if you're stuck and there's nowhere to go and the shooter's coming towards you, then you got to fight with everything you have. Like your life depends on it because it does. And there's no such thing as a fair fight. You use whatever you absolutely can to defend yourself, from a chair to a fire extinguisher, to a thumb in the eye, to whatever it takes to take that person down. Yep. Now, if you hear about an incident or somebody talks about something that you think doesn't seem right, report it to your local police. We're seeing a lot of this now. We're seeing threats in our schools that come across written on the wall, or somebody will say something online or things like that. And even with some of the school shootings that we're seeing now, that there were some opportunities for the community to stop this event before it happened if they just would have told somebody. Absolutely. And I get it. Yep, nobody wants to be that person, right? Right? You don't want to be wrong. You don't want to be the one that says, oh, I think that person's going to commit a crime. I better call the police. And then you turn out to be wrong. Yeah. We'd rather be wrong 1,000 times. Walk up there, interview the person, find out that it was a misunderstanding and go about our business. Then go back to a lot of these shootings that we're seeing and say, man, we could have stopped it here. We could have stopped it here. We could have stopped it here. And finally it happens. So
when it's too late,
then it actually happened and we're investigating it. So if you see something suspicious or you think something just isn't right, don't be afraid to call the police. You're not a snitch. You're not a tattletale. You're not anything. You're just a concerned citizen making sure that your community is safe, working with us.
Yeah. And before I ask you about online, I just want to make sure that we cover the driving aspect. It seems that near the holidays, people get crazy with driving, and some people are drunk, and some people trying to get to a sale very quickly. It's just not worth it. What are your recommendations?
So we've seen, and this is not just during the holidays. This has been about the last 2 or 3 years now. I call them the big three, so to speak. One is excessive speed. And we're not talking about people that are doing 5 miles over the speed limit. We're talking people that are doing 20, 25, 30 miles an hour over the speed limit. Our troopers are regularly finding people driving on the freeways at in excess of 100 miles an hour. If you lose control of your car at that speed, you're going to either kill yourself or somebody else. So that's one of the first ones that we talk about. The second one is following too closely. And that's one I always refer back to the Southfield Freeway for me. That you'll notice that people, for some reason, think everything is a NASCAR race. And the closer you get to the bumper of the person in front of you, you can kind of draft them along. Well, as soon as that person taps the brakes, you're either going to do two things. You're going to swerve and hit somebody else, or you're going to rear end that person, especially at those excessive speeds. And then the last one, of course, is distracted driving. There's so many things going on in our cars now that sometimes you just gotta drive. And I have a saying, get your head out of your app is what I tell people is your phone has nothing to do with driving. If you use your GPS, that's great. Program your GPS directions in there, put it in its stand, and then just let it talk to you. But you got to concentrate on driving. Those are the big things that we're seeing. And then we always talk about impaired driving, and we talk about alcohol, but we need to talk about marijuana now. Marijuana, we're seeing it, a lot more in impaired driving cases, where people think for some reason, it was kind of the same with alcohol that, we kind of saw at the beginning during the 50s and 60s where, I can have a couple and I'll be okay. People think that about marijuana right now. I can smoke a couple of joints and I'll be okay. There's way too many options out there to get behind the wheel impaired. You can Uber, taxi cab, get a piggyback ride from your friend. We don't really care how you do it. Just don't get behind the wheel.
Yeah. Generally speaking, one beer could impair somebody, their judgment to a point where they could get into an accident, or one joint could do the same, isn't it?
It is true. So alcohol and marijuana is kind of measured differently. So alcohol has a per se limit. So in Michigan, if you're 0.08 or above, or if you're under 21, 0.02 and above, you're automatically considered impaired. That's the law. That's what your blood alcohol content is, whatever. Marijuana doesn't have a set period, but it's the impairment aspect of it. So a lot of things we'll look for, and we've never made it a secret. And people see it on the road before we do, and they call us. If you have one joint and you pull up to a green light and you stop, you're probably under the influence of marijuana. You're having some trouble. And, if you're weaving in your lane or you'll fall asleep behind the wheel. So everybody's different on that aspect. So we look at the impairment process of it. If you rear end somebody's car and they find out later on in your blood results that you have THC in your system, that's going to lead to you probably getting, impaired driving charges against you. So we all know ourselves. For me personally, for one, I am a state trooper. I'm supposed to do the right thing all the time, every time. One beer, I don't get behind the wheel. You can take an Uber. You can do so many different things. We just ask people to make a plan ahead, because if you go somewhere and then you start drinking or smoking or whatever it is that you do, it's super hard to make a...
Sorry about that.
Nope. Okay. So if you're drinking or you're smoking or whatever, it's hard to make a good sound decision once you're already impaired. So if you're going to a holiday party and you decide I'm going to have a couple of adult beverages at that holiday party, then before you even leave, you should think to yourself, how am I going to get home? And that's the best way to go about it.
Absolutely. Lastly, online, what do we need to know?
So online, I want people to think about their computers and how their phones, their iPads, it's an open window. It's exactly what it is. That's how people can get into all of your information. We have privacy settings, we have different things, but none of them are 100% foolproof. So you always want to treat online as an open window. For your children, I always tell them that, and parents like this more than the kids do, the Constitution doesn't apply to anybody that lives under my roof. I know what my child's password is. I know how to get into their cell phone. If they want to get on the computer, they're going to do it in an area that I'm around, and I can just walk up, look over their shoulder, and see what they're doing. That's a good thing to know about your kids, because if you don't, they're going to get influenced by other people that aren't so trustworthy and end up in a lot of trouble with some of the things that happen there. So the second one, you want to look for HTTPS. That means it's more of a secured line to go into something to buy from.
That's the address of the website.
Yeah, the address of the website, because that actually shows that it's actually a secured website. You want to make sure anything that comes in your emails or some offers that you get is correctly spelled. A lot of the ones that come from overseas will not be spelled correctly. So you can kind of tell, hey, this doesn't seem quite right. There's just a lot of things out there that you really want to investigate before you actually make that purchase and give up your credit card information. Yeah. And then remember, nobody's going to ask you a legitimate place, your bank, anybody like that. They're not going to call you up on the phone or talk to you online, send you an email and say, hey, somebody hacked into your account. Can you give us your account number so we can fix it? Yeah. They already know it. So if they're asking you for it, that means they don't know it. And that means it's a scam and don't do it. So even if you got, again, that little feeling inside your head, you know what, something about this doesn't seem right, delete it and get out of there and go somewhere else.
Absolutely. We gotta remember that utilities and and the IRS and all of these people do not call for money. And if
Right.
and if a utility calls, call them on the number that you have. This is the practice I have. What do you think of that?
Absolutely. Nobody, there's no one, including us. I mean, we don't accept gift cards from Apple for a warrant request. We don't call people on the phone and tell them they have a warrant, but if you send us some money, we'll let you go. If you have a warrant from us, you'll know because we'll be knocking on your door. There's nothing like that, Edison, or I kind of dated myself, I think, DTE.
DTE, yes.
They're not going to ask you for a gift card to pay your utility bill. Again, there's a lot of things that happen with law enforcement or policing. The taxpayer already provides my bulletproof vest. They already buy my uniforms. They buy my car. They buy everything that I need to do my job. If somebody calls up and says the state police is running out of money, they need bulletproof vests, call a post or call somebody that you're already, the taxpayer is already paying for all that. You don't need to supplement that. And if you have a question about it, and there are some great organizations out there, the Police Memorial Fund, things like that. But I always ask them, instead of doing it over the phone, I ask them to send me something in the mail. Just send me a flyer in the mail that I can actually look at, read it, understand it, and decide for myself if this is something that I really want to donate to. And then that's how you kind of go around that.
Absolutely. It's unfortunately elderly people get preyed on the most. I heard of a couple cases where people pose at utility workers and they come to the door. And we always tell people, call the utility and verify that somebody is from them and is at the door. It's unfortunate.
And that's the saddest part, because our elderly our community, they're more trustworthy than us. They believe that everybody's good, and if somebody comes up and says, hey, I'm from DTE, I'm just coming to check on your electrical system, or I want to go in the back, or I want to do that, they want to take them for their word. And unfortunately, the criminals know that too, and that's why they kind of prey on our elderly community. But we remind them that they all got to have an ID card. It's going to be very, very rare that somebody's just going to show up on your door from a utility and ask you to do something. They're going to call in advance, or they're going to, send you something. I just had some trees trimmed in my backyard, and I got like 3 letters, a phone call, and then the person finally showed up on my front door, and I still check their ID. So that's the best way to go about it. Is unfortunately these days we have to be a little bit more skeptical than we'd like to be.
Absolutely. Is there anything I haven't asked you that people need to know as far as security concerns?
I just want to remind people that we talk about it a lot during the holidays, but these are all great ideas year round. The number one, again, and I know I've ridden this horse to death, is to be vigilant and know what's happening around you. If you do that year round, you're predominantly going to be pretty safe everywhere that you go. Don't be afraid to call law enforcement if you think something doesn't seem quite right. And then finally, it's been a rough couple of years. Enjoy the holiday season with your family and your friends, and whatever you do, don't get behind the wheel impaired.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Lieutenant Cha. I really appreciate you taking the time to be with us, and happy holidays to you and your family.
Thank you. Same to you.
Absolutely. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back. Please stay tuned.
Are you going to start a restaurant or a grocery store soon? Do you need floor plans and designs? Call Naji Abood at 734-744-9796. Do you want to buy kitchen and restaurant equipment at discount prices? Call Naji Abood now, 734-744-9796. New Concept Products and Design, the trademark of kitchen equipment. 5% discount on all purchases of $75,000 or more. New Concept Products and Design, new location, 31185 Schoolcraft in Livonia. Learn more at www.newconceptproducts.com. Call Naji Abood, 734-744-9796.
Ziyad brand. Quality products from our family to yours. Ziyad Brothers Importing offers the finest quality products, including brands like Sultan, Kraft, Nestle, Hook, Rico Picon, Dana, and many more. Ask your retailer to carry these fine products because you deserve the very best. For more information, visit our website at www.ziad.com. That's www.ziad.com. Ziad, quality products from our family to yours.
When you're looking for the best in optical care, Dr. Imad Nakash is your doctor to see. With years of experience and thousands of successful procedures performed, you can trust your eyes to Dr. Imad Nakash. See Dr. Imad Nakash and his professional staff for your eye care needs. There's 2 locations to serve you. In Hazel Park, call 248-336-3937. 248-336-3937. In Rochester Hills, call 248-299-3937. That's 248-299-3937.
Thank you all for listening. Thank you, Mike, for great production. Happy holidays and happy Thanksgiving. Bye now.